what is some of the research showing? Like, what are the end states of meditation?
Well, one cool thing that happens is that it thickens your corpus callosum, which is the thin white strip that connects the right and left hemispheres of the brain. And that's important because most of us have been hanging out in our left brains for our whole lives. All we have access to is our waking state. And then in this meditation thing, we're accessing the right brain. And what's interesting also, to go back to this mindfulness meditation piece, is mindfulness where you're directing your focus, where you're maybe coming back to the breath. A small part of the brain lights up, but very, very bright, which is different than in this style of meditation. The whole brain lights up, but not as bright. And so it's like creating neuroplasticity and creating neurogenesis, and the whole brain is lighting up. So it's strengthening that corpus callosum. Now, why would you want a fat corpus callosum? Well, everyone should, because it's quite literally the bridge between the critical mind and the creative mind. And so my theory here is that the stronger your corpus callosum is, the easier it is for you to come up with creative problem-solving ideas when it counts. You know, your boss yells at you, instead of shutting down and going blank, you can come up with the idea. Or if you get into a fight with your partner and then it gets really heated and then you like shut down and retreat to the bedroom, and then a couple of hours later you start coming up with all these witty comebacks and you're like, why couldn't I have thought of that in the moment? Well, my theory is that the thicker your corpus callosum is, the easier it is for you to really be firing on all cylinders, because no one cares how creative your ideas are in the shower, right? They care how creative your ideas are when you're giving the presentation to the board, when you're teaching in front of your students, when you're on the field of play, whatever your field of play is. Some of the other things is that it can reverse your body age by somewhere between 8 and 15 years. Which is nuts. And I did that when I first started learning about this. I was like, no way, this is not like a fountain of youth. It's not a magic pill. But here's the reality. Stress is prematurely aging us. And if you want proof of that, look at any president the day they take office and that same president 4 years later. It's like they have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and that takes a toll on the body. And we know how we look if we're not sleeping and drinking and stressed. It's like, versus how you look when you're on vacation. You're like, oh, I look great. And so meditation is like taking a vacation in your brain every day, twice a day. And what's happening is that it's strengthening your telomeres, which is like little casings at the end of your DNA and your chromosomes. And if those weaken and shorten, then your DNA can unravel faster. It's like, you know, the little caps at the end of your shoelaces. I don't have a ton of science on this, but anecdotally, it seems to improve fertility. There's a lot of case studies in the book about people who've gotten pregnant. I got pregnant on my first try at 39. I have students at 44 who had the fertility markers of the 18-year-olds after meditating for 2 years who previously were not even candidates for IVF.
That was actually one thing really interesting in the book. You showed some case studies of like blood and hormone levels, which I thought was really, really interesting. What should people be tracking? Like, what are some things that are signs that you might be having a problem? And then what are some things that they should look for that show that, whoa, this is really working?
Well, I recommend that everybody check their own relationship with stress. So in chapter 1, I even say, like, pull out a piece of paper, let's go. Like, how's your sleep? How's your stress? How's your anxiety? How's your road rage? How's your acid reflux? How do you respond to high demand situations? Do you bite your nails? How much money are you spending on therapy, coffee, alcohol, retail therapy, anonymous sex, antidepressants, anti-anxiety? And I'll give you a Cliff's Notes. The average American is spending $11,800 on that stuff per year. Whoa. And it's treating the symptoms, not the cause. And when you go in and do the meditation, it's like you learn it one time and then you have this tool to take with you for life, and you're actually treating the root cause. You're actually saving yourself money and all this stuff that we've been kind of looking for the answer. But I recommend the big ones are sleep. Right, so how's your sleep? I think is that an Oura ring that you're wearing? Yeah. So I've been working with them, and so we've been talking about how to like really incorporate a meditation interface into the ring, because right now most body data monitoring devices think that meditation is sleep, and I think that we're nearing the phase where we'll be technologically advanced enough for them to know the difference.
That would also be really extraordinary to see, to gamify it and to see like, whoa, I'm actually really getting a result here. What metric do you think we should be paying attention to with that? Is it going to be heart rate variability? I don't know if that's impacted or not, but what do you think we can actually track with that?
Well, sleep is a big one. I had insomnia. This thing cured my insomnia on the first day. I'd say that anecdotally, that's probably the number one benefit that people report, is that their sleep just gets so much deeper, more refreshing. They need less of it over time. Usually in the first few weeks, they need more of it because most people are working out of a sleep debt. So they're just like exhausted. They're like, Emily, you promised me more energy. I'm so tired. And they get mad at me for a little while. But then if you keep, meditating, then your sleep, most people's sleep signatures look like this. They go light, medium, deep, wake up, light, medium, deep, wake up, light, medium, deep, wake up. That lasts for 8 or 9 hours. They wake up in the morning, they're exhausted. Versus once you start meditating, most people's sleep goes light, medium, deep for 6 hours, medium, light, wake up. And so you've shaved potentially a few hours off of the sleep that you need at night, but you're waking up feeling more refreshed and rested. So if we go back to the original point of pain, which is I'm too busy to meditate. Well, if all meditation does for you is shave 1 hour off the sleep you need at night, then for a 30-minute time investment, you already have 30 extra minutes in your day. And that's to say nothing of an increase in productivity and creativity and clarity. So I would say track your sleep, depth, length that you need, how do you feel in the morning based on the amount of hours of sleep that you got. And then biting your nails, panic attacks, anxiety attacks. How many times a year do you get sick? How do you feel like you are performing in high demand situations? And some of it, a lot of people are like, how do I know if it's working, Emily? And I'm like, your life will get better. And I personally don't need a body data monitoring device to tell me that my life is getting better. Like, I just know. Now that said, I think for the skeptics and the pragmatists in the beginning, it's very helpful to have tools like this so we can chart.
Yeah. For me, that would be really cool. See in real time if you're getting into that zone or not. And I went through a really weird back injury where I was actually experiencing in my neck. So you have these things called scalenes that are like basically right by your clavicle, and they had gotten so tight I couldn't stand comfortably, I couldn't sit comfortably. Everything was a nightmare. I finally understood what people mean when they said, if I could just cry, I would feel better. And it was so frustrating. I was like, if I could just cry, I would feel better. Like, this is so miserable. And I ended up having to do biofeedback because the part of me that was the problem was actually my lower mid back, which I never would have guessed. It seemed impossible that was affecting something up by my neck. But the physiotherapist was like, trust me, I've seen this before. This is the problem. And so as I was learning to fire that muscle, I was shocked at how at first I couldn't even imagine what he was talking about. Then he put the biofeedback device, and then I could target it and I could get into that zone. So when you talk about sort of slipping through that bliss state, it's like, I'm sure some people will struggle with that and they're not sure, like, is that what you're talking about? Did I do it? And that's the question I've gotten a lot around meditation. I'm sure you have as well. Like, how do I know that it's working? And you said your life will get better, but there might be that intermediate way to really show people, like, okay, this is the biometric signature of what we're looking for. Boom, you're in it. That would be really, really interesting.
Well, I think it does exist. Muse, like the headband, it's very much designed for mindfulness. So I say if people are going to practice what I teach in the book or at Ziva, I say you can use it, you just have to turn the sound off, because that is it's almost like slapping you on the hand for having thoughts, which is the opposite of what I teach. I say that thoughts are not the enemy. You're allowed to have thoughts. The mind is going to think. And so many people report that one piece of information, that thoughts are not the enemy of meditation effort, allows them to feel so liberated. You're going to have mental field trips, and just like when you sit down to meditate or do breathing, probably some random thoughts pop into your mind. Okay, cool. So when those thoughts come back, it's like you're going to innocently and spontaneously realize that you're off of the practice. And when that realization comes up innocently and spontaneously, that's your cue to gently come back. It's similar